Some things went well for the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, but the team just isn't good enough just yet. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I'm your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's post-game episode, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to tell you why Spencer Rattler was the player of the game. We'll dive into the turning point where things went south for the New Orleans Saints. And but we're going to kick everything off with what you're going to be talking about, and that is that this team isn't quite there just yet. We got all that coming up for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being here as an everydayer here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The New Orleans Saints are an okay football team. They're not a good football team. I don't know if they're necessarily a bad football team either, but they're a football team right now that's not going to win football games with the way that they're playing. And that, I think, is what you'll be talking about tomorrow.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Yeah, we got stingers in production now. We're leveling up. It's about to be real different out here. The New Orleans Saints, what you're going to be talking about, I believe, is going to be mostly around how this team, for 2 weeks in a row, came close to winning a football game, but close isn't enough. Spencer Rattler spoke after the game, talked about his career best game, but how what they want doesn't really navigate around that. It has all to do with wanting to win football games, and that's what the New Orleans Saints haven't done now, opening 0-2 after a 21-26 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. A second week in a row, though, that the team had the ball with their offense in their hands with an opportunity to march down the field and either tie or, in this case, win the football game with a touchdown, but in both of these weeks coming up short in doing so. But the big thing for me that I think tells you exactly where this New Orleans Saints team is the defense. It's the defense that has seen less turnover than the offense, though it is seeing a brand new defensive scheme, brand new defensive coordinator, brand new pass rush plan. But for the defense to surrender 26 points to a San Francisco 49ers team that didn't have Brock Purdy, that didn't have tight end George Kittle, that didn't have wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, and that lost one of its best playmakers in fullback Kyle Juszczyk partway through the game, and by the way, kept Christian McCaffrey contained in the run game, it's just not what this New Orleans Saints team wanted to do with their performance. How did they do it? Third downs, not being able to lock those up. The San Francisco 49ers at one point were 8 of 12 on third down, finished the game 8 of 15, 53% on third down. That's the second week in a row that team has finished 40% or better. Remember, the Saints were 1-9 in games last year where they allowed more than 40% of third downs to be converted. The Saints also gave away 2 different third down conversions as well due to penalty and missed 11 tackles in this game, according to our friends over at Pro Football Focus. At one point, that number was 13, but I think they've adjusted some stats. It might be back to 13 by now. I'm not sure. But still, lots of missed tackles, a lot of them coming from the secondary. PFF had Alontae Taylor with 5 missed tackles. Isaac Yiadom and Pete Werner, to me, were the 2 weakest links on this New Orleans Saints defense, both in coverage and in tackling. Just not a strong game for the New Orleans Saints, and not a game that was going to allow them to be able to stay in it, despite some positive performances elsewhere. It was the missed opportunities and the miscues that really told the story of this New Orleans Saints loss to the San Francisco 49ers, all the way down to drop passes. 2 weeks in a row now, we've seen drop touchdowns, though the pass location probably could have been better. Spencer Rattler said that himself to Chris Olave on the opening drive. I wonder how different, maybe one of the biggest what-ifs we've seen so far this season. It's only been 2 games, Ross. Of course, that would be the case. But one of the biggest what-ifs that we've seen so far this season is what happens if the Saints connect on that opening touchdown pass or on that opening drive near touchdown to Chris Olave and then force the San Francisco 49ers to go 3 and out to start the game. That might have set the tone for the entire game. Starting faster is going to have to be a big thing that this New Orleans Saints team looks to do moving forward. And if they're not able to do that, late pushes, late arrivals, things like that are not going to win them football games. One of the things that Spencer Rattler also said after the game during his media availability is that the Saints need to do the things that winning teams do. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along those lines. And the things that we've discussed, the penalties, the missed tackles, the third down surrendered and turned into first downs by penalties. And not just that, the third downs that turn into first downs that turn into scoring drives because of penalties have absolutely been a big part of this team's defensive story for what feels like over a year now. Like, that's not just a 2025 issue. We saw that all throughout 2024 and a little bit of 2023 as well. And so the lack of discipline with which this team plays right now is going to continuously keep them in situations where at best they're going to be close to winning in close games. At worst, they're going to be blown out just like they were last year on Monday Night Football up against the Green Bay Packers. And at best, maybe they eke out a couple of wins late. But if the Saints want to get beyond that, if they want to get to a point to where they're going out there commanding and winning games in commanding fashion, those are the things that are going to have to get cleaned up. Like I've said over and over again on the show, I'm not going to go crazy and rail against this team with a brand new head coach, a brand new quarterback, a brand new offense, a brand new defense, so on and so forth. But we can certainly look at where the shortcomings are because they're glaring. It's not hard to miss where the Saints are coming up short so far over the course of the first two games of this season. The Saints did improve their penalties. They went from 15 penalties to 7 penalties, but still have over 130 penalty yards and several first downs surrendered over the course of their first two games on third downs when it comes to those penalties. And so even though you knock the numbers down, they can still be costly. And so until the Saints completely mitigate that issue, they're going to be playing from behind, or at least going to be playing from behind the 8 ball in terms of what it is that they want to be doing. Third and long situations for this offense as well continue to be a big problem for them. And so until the Saints get those things done, even a career best game from Spencer Rattler, which he gave up against the San Francisco 49ers, wasn't enough and may not be enough in the coming weeks against even tougher opponents like the Seattle Seahawks and the Buffalo Bills. Coming up next, I want to get to our player of the game, Spencer Rattler, with a career best game, but it just wasn't enough. We got that coming up for you next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by friends at Prize Picks, where making the right call can absolutely pay off. It's the best place to play daily fantasy football. Here's all you got to do. You just choose more or less on 2 to 6 player projections by Prize Picks. If you get those right, you could be walking away with a big time payday with fast cash outs and everything that you love about Prize Picks. You can turn your takes into real prizes in less than 60 seconds. Let's say that you've got something like Patrick Mahomes, 220 and a half passing yards. All you got to do is choose more or less, get that right, do it across the board there, and then you can end up with a big one. Especially looking at next week, Patrick Mahomes, all you need is 1 passing yard to get your first win. Rack up some more over at Prize Picks today. Download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $50 in lineups after you place your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we look to funny places for advice. Barbers, in my case, I used to do that a lot, not these days anymore, but baristas sometimes, your favorite podcaster sometimes. But look, everyone wants to find the right one, and that's where BetterHelp can come in when it comes to getting real support. They've got over 30,000 licensed therapists. They've got over 10 years of experience in the field. They are the largest online therapy provider in the world. BetterHelp is the place to go when you're looking for some help. I use BetterHelp. I've used it for the better part since the pandemic, pretty much, and absolutely love it. It's helped me build some really, really good habits. I think they could be helpful for you as well if you're looking for it. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can help you and provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners will get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. All right, Saints fans, if you're like me and you drive around a lot, I highly recommend checking out the free Upside app. The Upside app helps you earn some cash back at the pump whenever you go to fill up. So if you're like me and you're driving a lot, I drive from New Orleans to Metairie constantly, of course, or maybe you're taking trips back and forth to Baton Rouge, The Upside app is clutch. And right now, you can use our limited time promo code touchdown so that you can get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just by buying the gas that you're already buying and taking those commutes that you're already taking. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app and use that limited time promo code touchdown to earn a limited time 25 cents back per gallon bonus on your first fill up. That's promo code touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. New Orleans Saints quarterback Spencer Rattler gave a career-best performance, something we said that the New Orleans Saints would need in order to be able to have a chance to maybe win this game up against San Francisco, and that's why he's our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Our player of the game, Spencer Rattler, going 25 of 34. That's a career high, 73.5% completion percentage. Also threw for 207 passing yards, a career high, 3 passing touchdowns, as well as a career high again in passer rating with 118.1. Rattler had never broken through the 80s in his passer rating. He's been around 80, 86, somewhere around there, but had never broken into the 90s, and he did so today by breaking all the way up to the 110s. But of course, not enough for the New Orleans Saints. Could have had 4 passing touchdowns, but put 1 pass in that opening drive a little bit behind Chris Olave, a ball that was still catchable and probably still should have come down. You expect your number 1 wide receiver to go out and make that catch, but when you're wide open like that, that should be an easy target to hit. Spencer Rattler said he wants that one back. Did take it upon himself to say that he put that one too far to the left. Timing route, ball needed to be out before the break. And so it was him trying to place the ball where he thought Olave was going to be, but ended up putting it too far behind where he ended up being by the time that it was all said and done. He was also sacked 3 times, lost 21 yards in those situations. But overall, a pretty strong performance by Spencer Rattler. And this is what you've wanted to see from him, is an opportunity to actually see him develop, get better. And you're seeing that here. He had a fine game up against Arizona last week. Would have been a little bit better, would have looked a lot better, of course, with that Juwan Johnson potential touchdown late. But in this one, still with career highs and also completed 14 consecutive passes at one point. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's doing a very good job of just taking what the defense gives him, which means that you're not getting a lot of big explosive plays, but you get them every now and then. A great completion down the left sideline on a great one-handed catch by Rashid Shaheed for 39 yards. That was the team's kind of biggest explosive play for the day. But one of the other things that really impressed me about Spencer Rattler throughout this game was his ability utilizing his legs. Ran 4 times for 14 rushing yards. Not a ton of rushing yards, but you could see him rushing to pick up those first downs. And then at one point, literally running through contact, looking more like a running back or a fullback than a quarterback. Looked like he was about to get stopped, but then pushed through and went and got some more yards. Those are the kinds of things that give a little bit of juice to your offense, that get to help to build the momentum and build the excitement around where things were going. But unfortunately, just not enough for what this New Orleans Saints team did otherwise. And of course, a couple of those missed opportunities from Spencer Rattler and his targets themselves, that kind of builds up over time as well. Several drop passes, and then of course that misconnection between both Spencer Rattler and Chris Olave. Not putting that on either one of those guys, kind of a little bit on both. And so that's something you would like to see, them be able to connect with. There have been 4 touchdown passes. And then, of course, they missed the field goal off of that. And so the conversation around Blake Grupe is getting a little concerning as well. And so we'll see where things go. But for New Orleans, got some really good things and some promising looks out of Spencer Rattler. As of right now, with this being a process season to where scores and records aren't necessarily what's going to tell the story of this year, watching Spencer Rattler tick up week to week would be a positive thing for New Orleans. Now, let's get to the moment that kind of sealed the game for me. And I'm curious on your thoughts as well. So let me know what you think. But next, let's get to our turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
To me, the turning point for this New Orleans Saints team came down to a weird call by the officials. Now, we've seen this a couple of times now. The officials making some calls. Don't ask me what a catch is. I have no idea what a catch is anymore. But in the fourth quarter, the New Orleans Saints end up, or really it was in the third quarter, late in the third quarter, bridging into the fourth quarter, the Saints end up having a pass completion over to the right side of the field to Alvin Kamara, a pass that looked like he might have gained control on his helmet, but then as he was going down, hit from behind by Fred Warner, and the ball eked out of his hands, and then ended up being recovered by the San Francisco 49ers defense. At that time, the New Orleans Saints were in position to keep this game close and to keep themselves in kind of striking distance to potentially end up walking away with, if not a win, at least to be able to keep this thing competitive. But that drive then turned into a touchdown drive on a 42-yard completion from Mac Jones to Juwan Jennings on a catch and run for a touchdown as he crossed over the middle of the field. I mentioned Pete Werner as one of my weak links in this game. He had the underneath coverage on that play, and then just kind of, I couldn't tell, maybe he lost his footing, maybe slipped, and then wasn't able to be in position to take that pass away. Mac Jones places it perfectly, and Juwan Jennings probably could have walked into the end zone if he really wanted to. At an earlier point in that drive, on a big 3rd and 10, Pete Werner got beat by Christian McCaffrey on the right sideline on a comeback or a curl, and that ended up being a big completion that kept that drive and extended that drive on one that probably should have come to an end, but the Saints gave up 3 different third downs of 10 or more yards by allowing completions, not necessarily just the penalties that converted some third downs for San Francisco by the New Orleans Saints. So a bit of a struggle for the New Orleans Saints over on defense today, and I think that drive exemplified things. That was the drive that took this game from being within reach of 19-14 to putting the Saints in position of chasing from further behind, 14-26. And so that ended up putting New Orleans in a place where they scored a touchdown later on, could have gone up 21-19 if they would have been able to keep that touchdown off the board. But the fumble turns into the turnover, which turns into the points off of turnover for San Francisco. New Orleans got its first points off a turnover and its first turnover at an earlier point in the game as well, with a Chris Rumph strip sack that turned into a Demario Davis recovery that later turned into a Rashid Shaheed touchdown going the other way. But San Francisco getting theirs when they did in that 19-14 deficit kind of put a little bit of the nail in the coffin for New Orleans, extending that to a multi-score lead. In other words, would have been a single score lead at that point. So I think that for me was the turning point. But let me know, what's your turning point? Who's your player of the game coming out of this matchup? Coming up in tomorrow's episode, we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive. What exactly went wrong for the New Orleans Saints defense? Are the Saints playing too soft in zone coverage? And of course, taking a look at the run game for New Orleans as well. We'll get to all of that in tomorrow's episode. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. If you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you.